5 minutes guided meditation breakdown of Genesis chapter 4 focuses on the story of Cain and Abel, but through the lens of communication. It's a story about what happens when we stop listening to the still, small voice, and how God remains a constant support even when we stumble. The heart of the matter, Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 to 5. The chapter begins with two brothers, Cain, a farmer, and Abel, a shepherd. Both bring an offering to God. Abel brings his best, the firstborn of his flock. Cain brings some of his crops. God looks with favor on Abel's gift, but not Cain's. The lesson. It wasn't about the stuff, it was about the heart. Abel listened to the prompt to give his best, while Cain just went through the motions. When things didn't go Cain's way, he didn't ask, "How can I do better?" He got angry. 2. The coaching moment, Genesis chapter 4, verses 6 to 7. This is where the lesson on listening becomes vital. God doesn't wait for Cain to fail before speaking. He steps in before the mistake. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." The constant God didn't abandon Cain in his anger. He acted as a coach. He warned Cain that his emotions were becoming a trap. God is constant in his guidance. He provides the exit ramp before we hit the wall. 3. The choice and the consequence, Genesis chapter 4, verses 8 to 12. Cain chooses to ignore the warning. He lets his resentment simmer until it boils over, and he kills his brother. When God asks where Abel is, Cain famously snaps back, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Even in the middle of a tragedy, God is present. He doesn't look away. While there are consequences for Cain's actions, he becomes a restless wanderer. God's involvement doesn't end there. 4. Love overcoming struggle, Genesis chapter 4, verses 13 to 16. Cain cries out that his punishment is more than I can bear, and fears he will be killed by others. God's consistency. Even though Cain failed to listen and committed a terrible act, God puts a mark on Cain to protect him. This shows us that God's love isn't a reward for good behavior. It's a constant reality. He protects us even when we are at our lowest. Your guiding verse for a positive mindset when you feel like the struggle is real, or you've ignored that inner voice for a little too long, carry this verse with you to reset your heart. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Psalm chapter 46, verse 1. The take away every unease of my fear, turn my fear into triumph. Listen early. God often speaks to us through our conscience or a feeling of unease before we make a mistake. Pause and listen to that nudge. Don't compare. Cain's downfall was looking at Abel instead of looking at God. Your journey is yours alone. God is constant. Whether you are at your best like Abel or your messiest like Cain, God is actively providing a way back to peace.
A prayer for the heart's reflection, the opening creator, as I reflect on the story of Cain and Abel. I recognize the moments when my own heart feels heavy with comparison or quiet resentment. Grant me the stillness today to hear your voice before my emotions take the lead. The petition for listening and patience when frustration crouches at my door. Help me to stop and listen. Give me the patient love required to see others not as rivals, but as kin. Teach me to master my impulses with grace rather than letting them master me. The commitment to reflection remind me that I am, indeed, my brother's keeper. May my reflections lead me away from the land of Nod, the place of wandering and restlessness, and back toward a path of connection and accountability. Let my life be an offering that is pleasing, rooted in a love that seeks the good of all. The closing in the quiet of this moment. I choose to let go of the mark of bitterness and embrace the hope of restoration. Amen. Quick reflection, thought Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, contains a powerful warning. If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. It's a reminder that we always have a choice in the gap between a feeling and an action. Take the words, "Be in peace," and take the time to listen. Peace be with you. Input a daily verse with a positive mindset.